And ladies and gentlemen, if you are not already following Khasino on Twitch TV, what are you doing with your life, mate? He's got some proper right Strike Force content.
Embrace the spaghetti.
What's up, guys? So, I've been promising that I will do this video, and I got clearance in the middle of the night last night to talk about some of the things that we learned on our trip to FoxNext. So, joining me for this, I'm very happy to announce my friend MobileGamer is going to join us to also give his thoughts on some of the things that we were told. So what's going on, man?
Yes, absolutely. It was a very productive trip, absolutely, and I think the community is going to be happy with the things that we discussed and future things that they want to address. Definitely gives a mentality mindset that they want to take the game in direction. A lot of the stuff, we don't know when it's going to happen, but at least we got some insight into what they're thinking, which is very helpful.
Yeah, I'm very excited for some of the things in particular that they said they were going to do, and I think we did a pretty damn good job of representing the community and at least bringing up most, if not all, the topics that we were seeing a lot of people wanted some answers to. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So on that note, I do want to offer this disclaimer here. So there's a few things. Firstly, a piece of advice in terms of a general context for which you can think about all the information that we're about to talk about. I asked them about how far out is the least amount of time that something could still change, and they said that anything outside of like 3 days before it hits is subject to change. So therefore, everything that we're going to talk about, if it's not going to happen in the next 3 days, for all we know, they discover some new bug in the game and they have to completely work the game's infrastructure and everything gets pushed back. So we're just going to give you a general idea of when they're hoping to have stuff out, but it is all very much subject to change if it's not going live in 3 days.
Well, not only that, well, we talked to two different people primarily, and they have bosses and other people that they have to do things too. So a lot of the information we got was their opinion or what they thought or what they thought was going to happen, but at the end of the day, that could be changed anyways also.
Yeah.
They've got bosses.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, we'll talk about how we got some of the conflicting information. One thing that was very funny in particular was we were in the middle of being sternly told that we could not say that Ant-Man and Wasp were coming up. And I was trying to explain, no, you don't understand. I've been telling people Ant-Man and Wasp are coming for a while because we saw it in the data mine. It's going to be awkward when I suddenly start saying, well, maybe Ant-Man and Wasp are coming. We'll have to find out, when I've been saying they're coming for like a week. And what shocked me even more was the response from the person we were talking to saying, look, I don't know what you want me to tell you. You can't say that Ant-Man and Wasp are coming. And right after that information was delivered, we immediately got an in-game mail that said, hey, Ant-Man and Wasp are coming.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Right hand, left hand. A lot of people work there.
Yeah. So we definitely heard some mixed things. But we will, do our best to, and that's why I'm happy to have MobileGamer on here, because the other thing is we also interpreted some things they said. I interpreted some of the things they said as them being like more serious and more hypothetical, and he got some different impressions as well. So I'm glad we're getting both eyes on this. But so, also a disclaimer. There are a few things we still can't talk about. They did come up, we did discuss them, but here are the things that we won't be addressing in this particular video, and it's not that we didn't discuss them, it's just that for one reason or another we were told hold off on putting that out there. So we cannot talk about GoldGate much. I do want to talk about it a little bit, but because we're still waiting for their official response, which we were told to expect soon, there's really not much we can say until we see ultimately what they say. Otherwise, we did bring up possible alternatives to top 500 Blitz, maybe top X amount or top percent or whatever, but what they said specifically on that we can't say quite yet. We did bring up the level cap. A lot of people were asking what their plans are for the level cap. It was talked about, but we can't talk about it right now. And lastly, we did bring up higher level raids, beyond the level 50 raid, and so again, that was talked about, but we can't talk about that in this video. But just about everything else that we talked about, which was quite a bit, we can go ahead and dive into. So on that note, the very first thing we're going to talk about here is very good news. I'm happy to confirm raids are being retooled from 8 lanes to 6 or 7, so you no longer need to have flawless coordination and attendance, and you can expect this in the somewhat near future.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal because, you know, our guild, you know, when one person quits or goes out of town, then you have 23 out of 24, and then you're stuck waiting the entire 24-hour period. And he didn't have an exact solution, but it's top on their thing that they're going to work on, whether it's 7 lanes or 6 lanes, so that the raid can be completed with 21 people instead of 24 people. He sounded like very positive that that was absolutely going to happen. Is that what you thought?
It definitely, of all the things that were talked about, this was the one where there was not a lot of hesitation when he said, yeah, we're doing that. The fact that they specifically phrased it as like 6 or 7 lanes, I'm not sure if maybe they were saying like that changes based on the level of the raid, I don't know, so It doesn't sound like it's completely ironed out, but it, you know, that of all the things on their plate, that one is clearly in front of them. So, yeah, I definitely got that vibe. And so slightly attached to that news, people were asking if they had any plans to expand alliance size, but the main reason people were hoping they would expand the alliance size was, again, to solve that issue of needing to have flawless coordination and attendance to 100% a raid. You know, if someone got sick and got food poisoning, they screw over their entire alliance, which is a terrible system because sometimes real life happens. So we also asked about alliance size, and they are not currently planning any changes to alliance size because their solution to that flawless attendance issue is to make it 1 or 2 fewer lanes in raid.
Yeah, so they're sticking to 24 people from what I could hear.
Yep. So next up on the docket, and so some of this stuff was discussed before MobileGamer arrived, so I'm not sure exactly what he was and wasn't there for. There are certain things, of course, I remember that he was there for. But so, you know, if you hear MobileGamer say, like, oh, I wasn't there for that, he got there a little bit after. And I spent most of the time before he got there just grilling the community manager. So I think this was one of the things, I don't remember if you talked about it, but I did ask about the Rocket Raccoon event, and I asked, you know, what everyone's wondering, when's it coming back? So they did say this, which is people were not supposed to get the Rocket Raccoon event at all once global launch happened. They specified that, like, with certain time zones for people, it just happened where some people mistakenly got the Rocket event shortly after launch, but it wasn't supposed to happen. That said, though, they did say the Rocket Raccoon event will return sooner rather than later. And so I always, you know, obviously they don't have a set date picked out, so, you know, who knows when it'll actually happen. But I always try to ask, like, well, are you thinking, like, you know, like within the next 3 months or, you know, whatever? And so the answer I was given was, it could be as soon as within a month. Ideally, I feel pretty safe saying it should be within 3 months, but until they have a locked-in date, of course, subject to change.
Right, it's coming soon, sooner than later. The main thing is that post-global launch, I absolutely remember that. They said that was not supposed to happen. That was an error.
Yep. And so up to this next point, I think this next point was already said in the email that we got talking about the new patch, but just in case it wasn't, they are implementing chat blocking features. We asked about that. Excuse me. And so they did implement chat blocking features, or they will very, very shortly, to help combat those bots and spammers. So that's great news.
Yeah, that's great news. I have everything disabled already, so it doesn't have changed much for me. I've already turned it all off, so I don't see that. But I know the times that I have turned it on, it looks pretty horrible. It looks like there's a lot of spammy bot scam type things in chat, so that's not good.
Oh, you're missing a lot of good stuff in global.
I haven't been in it since launch, actually. It's been a minute.
Oh, you're missing a lot of really ill-informed political debates. Those are some of my favorite. A lot of people...
Not a fan.
Oh, no, of course not. A lot of people just prefer to talk all in stars because they haven't figured out how the sensor works. So, some good stuff in there. But, no, you know, being able to chat block will be nice. And on that note, we also asked about, like, a buddy list and whispers, and they said they have no immediate plans for a buddy list or for whispers. but that's not to say that it couldn't happen one day. Just that it's not anything that's something they're looking into at this moment.
Well, it's a lot of work to program that kind of stuff when everybody can just use Discord. I mean, that's what I do. I know people use different places, maybe Line, but it seems like a redundancy. Personally, I would rather have new content than them develop some sort of elaborate chat system. That's my opinion.
Oh, I agree completely. And so, like, how long it takes global to update when you send a message and then when you actually see that message in the chat, that lag is very irritating, even though it's only like 6 seconds or whatever. Contest of Champions has that problem where their in-game messaging, like they have a buddy list and whispers, but it takes so long after you send the message for it to show up that I'm almost always like, hey, thanks for adding me, do you have Discord or Line, please? So yeah,
right,
not a big deal. And then let's see, so we did ask, of course, people have been asking, when are we going to see characters like Loki, Groot, Star-Lord, and all the other characters that we can confront but that we can't currently unlock, Ultron, Red Skull, etc. And so they did say a good bit on this. The first thing they said was that these characters are still being worked on. Their kits aren't entirely fine-tuned, so they don't want to release them until their kit is where they want them to be. However, they did say that you are more likely to see Loki, Groot, and Star-Lord in the near future than other characters like Ultron and Red Skull. So there's no dates for any of this, but in terms of those characters, Loki, Groot, and Star-Lord, not necessarily in that order, are more likely to be seen sooner. And then this was not said during our trip to FoxNext, but a recent data mine showed Groot orbs were recently put into the programming of the game, which could mean that Groot is next, but again, please take that with a grain of salt, because Groot has had a Blitz programmed into the data mine for like 2 or 3 months now, and of course we have not had a Groot Blitz, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it at least lines up a little bit with what we did here for sure.
Yeah, my guess is that the characters like Loki, where you can play him in the missions, how you can play him quite a bit, those characters are probably going to come before the ones that are not playable, like as the add-on characters through the campaign mode.
Yeah, that's my guess as well. This was very, very hotly requested, a Blitz match indicator feature. And
my goodness. Right?
And so I remember...
I think I've brought that up every time I've gone there.
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, it's like a no-brainer. It's coming.
Yep. All they officially said was that it's on the radar, but I do like, we mentioned it, this was to the creative director, and he was like, oh yeah, we need to do that. So, yeah, it's coming, but their official statement is it's on the radar.
Soon TM. I think he said that exactly.
I think so too. And then preset Blitz teams also discussed quite a bit. And again, what they said was it's on the radar, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they said they had a meeting about that like earlier in the day.
Right. He said that they were talking about it earlier that day about presets. It's going to make it. Everything that I was hearing them say was all about priorities and like, well, do you want new characters or do you want this? So there was a lot of things they just had to like kind of allocate time towards. It seems like this is one of them that they were interested in.
Yeah, definitely this was something that they were at least talking about, which is one of the beginning steps, but it means it's more likely to happen. But also, I have to make sure to say neither of those features are currently guaranteed. We didn't hear that they're coming for sure, but the fact that the people who are making the game want these features in, they were not shy to say like, we don't really care about that feature. So the fact that they said they do care about this feature is a good sign. And then he mentioned about character rework, so I did want to bring that up real quick. So a lot of people have been asking like, when is Ronan going to get a rework? When is Hulk going to get a rework? Yada yada. And I definitely wanted to echo their statements on character reworks. So in short, what they said was, they're not opposed to doing character reworks. Believe it or not, in soft launch, Ronan was very good. Elektra used to be a god. Kree Royal Guard was like the best tank. So they've done reworks. But basically they were saying a rework, if it's not something small like just changing a damage number or changing a speed number, they have to then go back and like rebalance all the campaign and all the raid missions that character's on, and it's a lot of work. Whereas they can use that same time to work on new characters. So, and no matter who you fix, someone else will sink to the bottom. There will always be characters that need to be improved also.
They were okay with Ronan being bad, is what he said. I mean, somebody's got to be the worst. And rather than making everybody about the same, they'd rather just build new characters. Is kind of what I got from that conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He was like, look, do you want Ronan and Shield Trooper to be improved, or do you want 2 new characters? And
exactly.
Pretty much.
Because they said it's a similar amount of work because of the game balancing. Once something is tweaked, it has to be extensively tested so that it doesn't break the game.
Yep, that's exactly right. This is just a small thing, but we did ask about it. Some people are asking if they can get additional roster filters, if they could filter by star level or alphabetically, and the response to that was exactly what you'd expect. They were like, that is not a priority at this time, but it's on the wish list. So, maybe one day, but don't hold your breath. This was a big one that I'm happy to talk about, and this one in particular I very much want to hear MobileGamer's thoughts on. Exploring gear inventory. People have been asking what's going on, can we get a gear inventory? And if I remember correctly, I do know that for sure they said it's currently not planned, and I believe their reason for doing so was they said it brings with it a whole host of like additional things. Like once people can see the gear, you need a filter to sort the gear, and then once people can sort the gear, then they realize they have too much of a certain item and they want to trade in or sell the gear, and it ends up being this whole.
And they're not
thing.
interested in doing any of that, which kind of makes sense. Being able to sell the gear is always a bad idea, because what if you sell the wrong thing? That makes for a bad experience and so on. But they did want to make it a little bit easier than clicking on the gear and seeing how much you have, so that you could plan a little bit more. I know for me, knowing how many advanced basic catalysts I have would be very useful.
Yeah, definitely. And so, again, their official statement on that is it's not to say that it'll never happen, but they have no plans on that at present, just because it's such a big undertaking and it wouldn't make a big difference that they see, and I agree. But so, kind of roped into that conversation, this is really where I don't remember that much of what was said. We talked about mods and costumes. I just remember that they came up. What was...
I don't remember the costume part. I know he asked me a bunch of questions about mods in my experience with mods, and which is something that I don't think you've had to deal with. But mods in a game give the characters a lot more custom options. You can make a character faster, or if you want a character to be more tanky, you can make them more tanky. But basically, you can attenuate the character's strengths and weaknesses with mods. And so he had a lot of questions about that. And so I don't know if that's something we're working on, but he was curious and he asked me a bunch of questions. He also had some comments about slow and speed up.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I say this as I interpreted it, but I think MobileGamer interpreted this slightly different, which is fine. But for my own peace of mind, someone, like, as soon as I had briefly mentioned, like, oh, they talked about this, someone immediately hopped on Discord and was like, they're nerfing speed up and slow, and that's...
They might.
Oh, of course they might, but, you know...
They might, yeah.
They might make Ronan pink, who knows, you know? But so... I do agree that it's one of the more likely things, but anyway, what was actually said, we were talking about their communication, because a lot of people are like, did you talk to them about their communication? So I assure you, me and MobileGamer would not shut up about anything and everything they could do to improve their communication.
Everybody we talked to.
Yeah, literally. We were like, hey, how's it going? You guys should communicate more. But one of the things that was asked shortly after we made a comment like that was, okay, let's say, for example, because they did acknowledge, like, speed up and slow are too strong. They're so good. Anyone who doesn't have speed up or slow is automatically like a step down from anyone that does, and it's such a big factor in the game. So they did not say for sure what their concrete plans were, but they are definitely looking at speed up and slow and how strong it is.
And the nature of his question is he wanted to ask us how we would go about informing the community of a change like that.
Yeah, he asked.
Right? I mean, that's kind of what he wanted to know. Is like, if we were going to change slow to this or speed up to this, you know, how would you message the community? I think that's what he was asking us more than anything else.
Yeah. His exact phrasing was, if we took it from like 50% to 30%, do you think a week would be enough of a heads up. And
yeah, and so, and what you and I both said to him is that we both agreed that the mechanic was very, very strong, and I personally can see it'd be very challenging for them to make a better character if it didn't have that, right? I mean, if it didn't have that mechanic, it wouldn't be better than some of the characters we have now. Right. You know, Black Widow and Quake are amazing together, and almost every team has them. It's just that simple.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly useful game. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a turn-based game, so getting the ability to take an extra turn or deny someone a turn is huge, because that's literally when all the action happens. So yeah.
And personally, I think they should do something like that. I strongly feel that way, actually, and I think a lot of people that don't have Black Widow feel that way also.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Although, just want to put this out there: if you don't have Black Widow, Merc Lieutenant also does speed up. He's the only good replacement for Black Widow. But if you don't have Black Widow, get yourself a Merc Lieutenant. But yeah, I also like very much support what they were thinking about doing. But so please do not take away from this. For sure, you know, this is what it's changing to. Just they're looking at it and they wanted to know about how much of a heads up was good. And I think my response was, as much of a heads up as you can possibly give is the best heads up, but a week would be a big improvement on what we've been getting.
Well, I think us talking about it now is even a slight heads up to the community in general.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if it does happen a month from now or 6 months from now, at least like somebody knew about in the back of their mind the possibility of that mechanic being changed, because it seems very broken right now, frankly.
I agree, and both Quake and Black Widow and Merc Lieutenant would all still be very good if they tuned it down a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
But all right, so that pretty much checks off everything I had on my list of notes for things that we talked about. If you want to talk about the data mine, there was some stuff in the data mine that we didn't hear about at all. But I guess I'll just throw this out here.
I think the only thing that we didn't talk about that I kind of remember and I kind of want to say is that Ant-Man and Wasp are coming, of course, and they're coming in a different way than we've got new characters before. They're not coming in Blitz, and they're not coming in at Thanos or Deadpool Legendary Raid. It's coming in a new way, and I think the text message on the little card said something like that as well.
Yeah. It said, I think it called it a campaign event, which is very unclear what that is, but that's how it was worded in the email they sent out. But yeah, we of course got to play around with that, and so yeah,
I think people will like it. I think people will like it.
I very much think people will like it, and it alleviates one of the pressures a lot of times that happen with the am I going to be able to get the characters. I think everyone will be able to get the characters.
And they look good or useful.
both they visually stunning,
both good and useful and interesting.
Yep.
Right.
I'm very happy.
But until we get to play them and test them, we don't really know. But on paper, they look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, well, we got to play them a little bit, so I feel comfortable. People have been asking me, like, what do you think that they'll do in terms of, like, will they be used in X game mode, and how are they going to fit in on the tier list? So I have been saying and this is pure speculation, of course, but
I think they're more arena than raid, actually, if I was going to say it.
I agree.
Point blank, right? More arena than raid, and probably still very good in Blitz.
Yep, I think they will have at least some, if not a hefty impact on the current arena meta. And and again, it's, you know, I won't know until I play with them more, but I'm guessing that the worst either of them will place on my tier list is low demigod, and that would be like the lowest I see either of them going, but of course it's subject to change. But that's the impression I got, is that they're pretty badass.
I have no predictions whatsoever, but they didn't look terrible. They didn't look like trash. They looked good. So, and they should be good. I mean, obviously, new characters should be good.
Yep, for the most part. Mordo.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but they didn't even make that exclusive for the top 500. They kind of know that it's a mediocre character, so it's, you know, you can still get the top 10% or whatever and get shards.
Yep, that's true.
It's a 2-star unlocked character. I think that says a lot.
Yep. And so I did want to just briefly mention the data mine. There were a few things in the data mine, and these things I don't recall coming up during our visit, but so this information's already out there. Whoever data mined it, one of the first things they found was that they found a thing saying that the new patch was going to hit on June 27th. So we're not able to confirm or deny when the patch is going to hit, but there was a data mine that showed it hitting on June 27th. So at least making people aware of that. Also found in the data mine was that Black Panther was getting put in the Arena store. As far as I know, we didn't hear anything about that. And again, sometimes,
Very nice.
Yeah, that'd be a welcome change in my opinion. But you didn't hear about that, did you?
No, this is news to me right now.
Yep. So there's that. And again, who knows if or when it's going to happen. Another thing that I found very interesting from the data mine is something that actually contradicts something that was said. But again, the source that said it, this is the same source who was saying we are not allowed to talk about Ant-Man and Wasp, as we got an in-game email about Ant-Man and Wasp. So, you know, there's some slight disconnect. Not everyone is always exactly on the same page. There's a lot of information that changes, and not everyone gets every update. But found in the data mine, actually, is that the Thanos Raids are returning until the middle of July. And I had asked about the Thanos and Deadpool raids, like, when do you think they're coming back? And the official answer that I got was, we're not sure. Of course we want to bring them back at some point, but as for a date, we have no idea. That's what I was told.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hope it's true. And again, you'd never know what is and isn't true in a data mine, but it did say Thanos raids are returning in until mid-July, so about the beginning to the middle of July. And I would like that. Would you have any objections to that?
No, the raids are time-consuming, but yet the shards are good, and I think that'll kind of levelize Thanos. I actually didn't think they were going to do that. I thought they were going to make Thanos and Deadpool. I think a lot of the people were able to get those characters to 5 or 6 stars if they were in a guild that was doing well. I almost kind of assumed that they were going to make those shards available through some other means, like orbs, example, like
premiums
premium
or
orbs.
ultimate orbs or something.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have thought they're going to bring them back, but if you've got it in the data mine, that's fine. I just thought it would be something that we'd have to pay to get them up another star level or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I left there thinking like, all right, so they'll be back at some point, but I shouldn't expect it anytime soon because they don't even know when. And then, like a day or two later, data mine was like, oh yeah, it seems like they're coming back pretty soon. So we'll find out, but I certainly hope. And then the last little tidbit from the data mine, which again, and I stressed this earlier, take with an immense grain of salt, is that like Groot featured orbs were put in the data mine, but like as an example, Venom featured orbs have been in the data mine for months, and obviously we've not seen a Venom featured orb or anything, so it doesn't mean anything that is set in stone at all, but it does line up with the fact that we heard that Groot would be among the already existing characters that we'd get sooner as opposed to later. So yeah, it's pure speculation, but that was in there, so hopefully that is what that means, but who knows. For the record, Groot doesn't look that great, at least to me.
Well, it looks like it's only good if you have Rocket and vice versa.
Yep, and even then, even still, just But anyway, that's another discussion for another day. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up? Because otherwise I think we've covered pretty much everything that I remember us talking about that we're able to talk about. Oh, I guess we could talk about GoldGate a little bit, just because absolutely everyone has been talking about GoldGate, so I want to make sure we at least touch on it. We've both kind of already shared our thoughts on it. I did a little bit on Reddit and on my live stream. I know MobileGamers at this point is just sick of talking about it, right? At this point you're like,
I'm not sick of it, it's just I feel like they need to make their post, and I don't know what they're going to say, and it's until then it's kind of interesting.
Yep. Here's the things that I have been disclosing that I believe we're able to say, but if not, it's coming from me, not MobileGamer. But I did get the feel that this actually impacted a much smaller amount of people than we thought it did. So a lot of people were over here thinking they were like part of the half of the player base or the third of the player base that got shafted. But in reality, I think it was just a very, very small batch of players that received it. So it's not as widespread of a problem as it was. And then we heard a lot of different takes on what kind of impact this has had in the game. And MobileGamer raised an absolutely amazing point in his video, which is if you there is no way to quantify Reddit posts. Like, they're not looking and counting how many angry Reddit posts did we get. They're looking at how much time people are spending in the game, how many new people are playing the game, how much money is being spent, all that stuff. Refunds. Support tickets.
I bet you how many refunds are calculated too.
Yeah, they'd look at refunds, but definitely support tickets. So if you would like to make a statement, at the very least, send in a support ticket. And as MobileGamer pointed out, like, you might get a generic copy-paste response, but if...
You will get a generic copy-paste response.
That's fair. Yeah.
No, here's the thing about GoldGate is, like, it's unfortunate if this is going to be their first blog post, or official statement for, like, at least a month. I think it would have been in their best interest if they had had constant contact with the community, and the community had a feel for them and their values, and that they weren't just a faceless corporate entity, because they're not. When you meet them, they're actual real people that have a lot of passion, not only towards the game, but gaming in general, and development, and Marvel. They truly love Marvel. And I think it's kind of a tragedy that this would be the first time that they've made a comment in about a month. Would have been better if they had many different posts. And then other things too is that, yes, they're numbers people, and what I mean by that is that they're looking at quantifiable data, specifically support tickets. So if you have any type of complaint about the game or something you're unhappy about it, support tickets go a long way, because it's a numbers game, and if one person makes a claim, that's counted a certain way, but if 10 people or 100 people, that's different, and it moves up the chain. So a random anecdotal Reddit post is not quantifiable the same way that a support ticket. It's just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I also wanted to say, there were some... we talked to several people, and so the reason why we're excited to see their response is we got different takes on it from different people. We definitely spoke to, at least one person, if not a couple, who were like, I totally get why people are upset. Like, I want to handle this in the best way possible. I think people are completely reasonably feeling that way, yada, yada, yada. And, they sympathize, and they take it very seriously. And then other people, and I'm not gonna name this person or these people, and I'm not trying to vilify them at all, because I did not get the vibe that they didn't care or anything like that. Quite the contrary, I got the feel that they cared very, very much about the game. But
they care very, very much about the game. I mean, it's their baby. Some people have been working this game for like 3 years. They may even care too much about it. I mean, they really care about the game.
Yes, but
and its success.
Absolutely. And so what was
but
said...
on the same thing, they didn't make the game to lose money either. I mean, they built the game, to make money, something that's going to be successful. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people like to vilify anything that makes money, and I think that's just wrong.
Yeah, of course. That's jumping to conclusions. And so I did want to also highlight why it may seem like they don't care a bit. We don't know what kind of response we're going to get, but if you get a response that seems like they didn't care that much, I'll kind of give you the perspective that they were coming from on this, which is totally reasonable as well. Something was said, and these are kind of ballpark figures, but something was said like, I believe you that you're hearing a lot of complaints, but we look big picture, and Reddit is maybe like 25,000 people, and the game, I forget the exact number they threw out, but it was something like the game's like 800,000 people. And so they were like, you might be under the impression that the sky is falling and everyone's up in arms and ready to quit, but we're looking at the actual numbers, and more people are playing every day, and spending is increasing every day, and time spent on the game is increasing every day. So we're just looking at the numbers, and we clearly didn't upset as many people as you seem to think we did, because we would see if something was going terribly wrong, it would show. So you may be engrossed in a community that's a bit of an echo chamber, but I assure you we are looking out for the game overall, and at least one person also mentioned that they kind of like the approach of, like, you know, talking to people is fine, but we jump straight to the actions, and so they look at things like spending and engagement and time like that, and they're like, we're just going to make sure that we're always tweaking the game to, like people will communicate with their actions, so you can say it makes you upset, but if you're going to, you know, play even more and spend even more, you're obviously still enjoying the game by and large. So it's a perfectly fair way of looking at it.
I don't know about all that. I just know that, you know, support tickets make a difference, and if you feel a certain way about the game, the best way to voice that is a support ticket.
I agree, and I've sent a support ticket, so I'm doing my part.
I love it.
But yeah, so now that we touched on that as well, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up, or anything I forgot?
That'll do it.
All right. Then I know you have to go here pretty soon, so I will let you go. But thank you very, very much for coming out for this. I don't even think I need to say this. I'm pretty sure you all know MobileGamer. But for any of you that don't, why don't you go ahead and tell them where they can find you?
In Google, MobileGamer.
Yeah,
really easy to find me.
Yep, Google MobileGamer. I will drop a link to his channel in the video description below. But yeah, thank you very much for coming out. And yeah, that'll do it. Peace.
Awesome sauce.